Well, thank you all for being here. Thanks for everybody that's online or who will watch this later. We'll jump into this. So, like we mentioned, we're a very family-focused company, and so Levi and I will introduce ourselves and our families really quick. But we want to introduce you to Tristan. He's our head of asset management for the company, and yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, as Joe said, my name's Tristan. I grew up in the Phoenix, Arizona area. So this is my wife and me up here, as you guys can see online as well. Her name's Mariah. She's a labor and delivery nurse, and we met up at BYU, Idaho. So I interned for Joe and Levi for about a year, and graduated just recently with a financial econ degree from BYU, Idaho. And then in April, started full-time for them. Up at BYU, Idaho, I ran the Real Estate Investment Development Society. So we did a lot of education where we're teaching about underwriting, entitlement, zoning, different aspects of real estate, as well as having professionals come in and speak. So I headed that up for about 2 years. So it was a great experience, good networking and everything. So just excited to keep learning, keep growing.
Thanks, Tristan.
And he's got a baby on the way coming in a month. Right?
Yeah.
Get all of his time.
This is the last trip we can bring him on, then he'll be tied at home.
I'll introduce Brian. I was going to make him get up and talk. He got lucky. But Bryant and I have gone back. He was an investor on a deal back in 21 that we bought that went bad. And Bryant, for those of you who know him, he's very analytical, very technical. He's a CFO of a bank. He's done lots of mergers and acquisitions. And he just brings a completely different viewpoint to the company and has helped us solve a lot of problems. On that deal, he and I were able to work together and solve a major issue, and we ultimately got it sold and returned 100% to a return of capital to investors. And so now Bryant is on our board of directors. He's invested on most every deal that Levi and I have done, and has been a very important part of our business. Mm-hmm. So my family is my wife Bailey, and then I've got from left to right, Rafe, Ren, and Amberly, 9, 3, and 6. They're a soccer team right now, so we're in the thick of summer. All the kids are home trying to run a business and kids at the same time. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and this is my wife, Sierra. Then we've got Grace, who's the oldest boy, Cooper boy, Tatum girl, and then we have a 1-year-old, Coulter. But yeah, I live right down the street from Joe, so our kids play a lot together. It's a lot of fun. But as you'll see on the next slide, most of you already know a little bit about kind of our backgrounds, but for those of you that don't, Joe and I both grew up farming and ranching with that lifestyle, and a lot of like the values that we've instilled in our business today are like, you do what you say you're going to do. Your word is your bond. Your word is your bond. And like, there's a lot of handshake deals that happen on the farm and ranch. And so we, learning hard work, and Joe has a background in construction and property management. And then I'm kind of more deal analytical finance. So we met about 5 years ago. A little over 5 years ago, I was actually buying a deal here in Ogden, 52 units, and Joe reached out to me just wanting to know how I was buying it, and we started talking and quickly realized we have complementary skill sets, opposite personalities, and we just figured out we work really well together. And then, we won't go too in depth on this, but like I said, Joe and I have both been doing this for a little over a decade. We've raised a little over $65 million. This is a little bit dated. This property is actually a property I helped my family buy in St. George, Utah. We sold the family farm actually a couple of years ago. They've been one of my largest investors from the beginning. I started out helping them diversify some of their wealth out of ag, and then slowly, organically, you get referral and word of mouth and people want to know what you're doing, and that's how we kind of evolved into having more of you guys, which is fun.
Yeah. So as part of our company, right, family, and then just building lots of relationships, having lots of fun. So next time we do one of these, we'll have a bunch of shotgun shooting photos for those of you who are coming, which will be a great time. There's even a couple of you here, Trevor. We went to the hockey game together last fall, and Jordan Hutchinson was going to be here, but we like to build lots of relationships and go out and do fun things and really get to know our investors first. So, Dan, you haven't invested with us, we'll get on a couple calls, get to know what you want and need and how it fits with your lifestyle goals before, we'll present a deal to you, right? Because we just want to know how it fits overall in your investment strategy and your family and your long-term goals before we'll ever take a check. And some of the, with, Greg and Todd, we've had a relationship for 8 years now. When I first started bugging you about the 20plex, and you invested your first deal with us this last year. So sometimes it takes a couple of years, and sometimes, we have family office and they referral, and they invested within 2 months of our first contact. So we're in it for the long run is what I'm saying. And to show a few statistics, I know, look, there's Greg right there. A few statistics. So we've raised a little over $15 million since September of 24 when we bought our first deal together, North Russell Apartments. 38 investors. And the cool statistic that I like here is that 7.5 million of that 15 is from return investors just investing over and over with us. And then, 4.4 million from referrals. So a lot of our business, as you can see, is building these long-term relationships where people keep coming back and they keep referring friends and family. And the thing that I like too is that we like to have an intimate relationship with our investors. So on most of our last few deals, like on 1856, we had 8 investors raise 6 million. So our average check was 530,000. It just gives us the ability to have a conversation with every one of our investors and talk to them about what are their goals. Okay, we're going to sell this property. Does it fit? So we can have a conversation. So a lot of people that have a bad taste in their mouth from multifamily have that because when you're an LP, you have no decision making. You don't have a lot of visual of what's going on. And so having fewer investors gives us the ability to help you guys feel like you have control and a say. And we want you to have say in what we ultimately do at the property level. So we're just extremely grateful for our investors and for, helping us get to where we've been.
Yep. Yeah. It's a little more partnership like, and you guys have probably seen in the news, maybe not to speak down on any other operators, but some big names out there have had deals lost, go to foreclosure. And a lot of those deals have had just tons of limited partners at really small investment amounts. And if something's going wrong and you need to do a capital call or you need to strategically do something, we've found a lot more success in having more of a partnership smaller knit group. But on this slide, you can see we spoke at the Best Ever Conference. It was here in Salt Lake a couple months ago. There was 74 groups that applied to present in what's called the pitch slam, where you present a deal. Only 15 were accepted. So we got accepted to pitch. And then on our first presentation, we just talked about how we build a relationship, kind of our goals, how we do business, about us. And then we got invited to go to the second final round where we pitched a deal and we placed fourth. But overall, it was a lot of fun. There was almost 1,000 people there, and they had a row of 7 judges where they'll invest in your deal if you make it to the top 3.
We got fourth. Yeah. So close. Yeah. But yeah, it was a good time. So, all right. I think this is the moment everybody's been waiting for. Give some portfolio updates. If many of you have had conversations with us, one of our models, as you can see at the bottom, is we run out bad news, walk out good news. Because both Levi and I have been in deals where it's been the opposite and the bad news never comes as quickly as it should. And so we just want to share the properties that are, having the slowest start and some challenges. and then kind of go from there. So first one, 1856, right? We bought this deal, September. This is just one, it's 292 units, much bigger property.
It's kind of a long story. Yeah, we won't get too much in the weeds of how it came about, but it was through a long-term relationship that we had that we were actually able to, the biggest current investor in the deal on the seller side, he had 4.1 million invested. We got him to roll his investment in with us on the buy side too. He only got 800,000 out of the deal because their all-in basis was 28 million and we bought it for 21.5 million. But overall, yeah, we feel like we've done a lot of things right on this property, like our business plan. We'll show you the renovations we've done, the structure we have, but we'll also show you just some of the challenges, that some things that have been out of our control, some accidents like Greg mentioned,
Some fun stories.
but yeah. You want to take the next one?
So really quick, we'll give an update on kind of the construction side of things. So we had $2.3 million budgeted. Since then, the property was in kind of disrepair, had a lot of, what's the word? Deferred maintenance, thank you. Lots of deferred maintenance. And so kind of our overall business plan on any of our assets is to clean up the curb appeal, get all the exterior stuff cleaned up so it's a more clean environment for tenants. So we took a couple tennis courts, repurposed them into pickleball courts, playground, dog park, basketball court, to just diversify the amenities for the tenants. Then we updated the fencing. And then our driveways, we have two properties. You'll see here in just a second. We repaved, or we did a mill overlay where we took out all of the driveways on the entire property, resurfaced, restriped. And then the biggest project was on one side, there were 18 buildings that had this old hardened board siding that was deteriorating. And so it was an $800,000 project. We went and re-sided with cement board and repainted one entire side. And I mean, it's fun listening to me and all, but here's
all new parking lots, 4 new pickleball courts, 2 new basketball courts, all new siding, new wood fencing, new dog park, and new playground.
And that was pretty cute, right? It's our in-house marketing team. They did good. We went down in February and we did a ribbon cutting. And rebranded the property from the 1856 to the ranch at 1856. You can kind of see in that picture there. There was kind of a stigma around the property from the guy who bought it, so we rebranded it just a little bit to fit our brand just a little bit more, and have had a lot of good feedback from it. All right, now to get in. So if you want to look into this, I'm very detail and numbers oriented, and I like to track things to the dime, and in a way our lender makes us too. So you can kind of see from this screenshot where we're at as far as our budget to actual spend on our construction. So we're about 60% through our construction budget, with a majority of that being all exterior. We've spent 1.2 million, I believe, on exterior work. So let's, yeah.
I'll just talk real quick on the supply. So probably one of the biggest headwinds has been just supply in the market. There was about 5,000 units that were delivered in the San Marcos area between 2024 and 2025. And there's a lot of things going for the market. There's a lot of good job growth. The enrollment of TCU is like having the best year-over-year numbers they've had in many years. And distribution centers, it's got job growth, population growth, all of that, but it's just taking longer to absorb all of this supply. That it's also hurt the older projects like ours, where there's just a lot of options, and it's just going to take a little bit longer. There's different forecasts, whether it's going to be 12 months, 18 months to kind of get through the remaining supply lease ups. And then there's less than 500 units currently under construction. So the 5-year forecast is really good. It's just getting through this next little bit.
We still
And then
believe
we have-
that we bought it like really, really good. You've heard that adage, like you make your money when you buy. Like we still feel like we did really good on the purchase.
Yeah, population is supposed to double by 2035 in San Marcos. So it's like as fast of a growing market in the country, but it's just getting through that supply. But you want to talk about the car crash?
So car crash, I mean, some of you that are investors already know about this, but quick backstory is a couple teenagers decided to take one of their mother's cars for a joyride, and they ended up going 40 miles an hour is what the police said, down like this straightaway, and they didn't stop or slow down in time. It was like 8 o'clock at night, so it could have been dark in January. They didn't turn, and so they jumped the curb and drove right through this guy's bedroom. Like this is somebody's bedroom. And I mean, God was absolutely watching over them. The girls weren't hurt, and the guy that lives in this unit, he had been called into work 30 minutes prior to this actually happening, and he doesn't work nights. So it was just a freak occurrence. And the other kind of blessing here too is you can kind of see this is the edge of the building. So those of you who know construction, right? There's a corner post right there that they missed. And so if they would have hit that corner post, it would have completely damaged the entire structure of this 8-plex. So where they missed it and they just hit interior walls, it only affected this one unit instead of all 8 units. And so we just barely got our permit approved on Thursday to get the renovation finalized. I'm sure some of you may have questions, but we vacated the building, and as far as liability, the tenants didn't have renter's insurance, they didn't have liability insurance, they had nothing, because they were a tenant that we got from the purchase. And so we ended up evicting him, but the guy whose room they drove through still lives there, luckily. So we got pretty lucky on that one. So
Yep, and then another big change we made was property management. We can't talk a lot about what was going on with the other management company, but since we made this change, we had actually been interviewing this company for like 3 or 4 months because we were under contract to buy a different deal in San Marcos. So we had met with them, went to lunch and dinner with them, got to know them, spent a lot of time with them, running through numbers, getting to know their company, their structure, the support they offer, the marketing and the leasing process, that just kind of how they're different. And Tristan can probably talk better than us about a lot of those changes that we made, because he spent day after day just analyzing the data, because one of the biggest things was inaccurate data, and for us trying to figure out how to track it and what changes to make. So I'll let Tristan talk a little bit on that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say we think that they were doing their best that they could do. We don't think it was malicious or anything like that. That company was doing what they thought was best. With Onyx, we just feel like we have a much better structure. They have regionals, they have marketing departments, and people who are specialized in their roles. We feel like that's going to add a lot of value to us. And even in the feedback that they are coming in, they are saying, hey, these are areas that we can improve. This is how, and this is why. And so we're excited to see what they're able to do. They've been at the property since May 11th. And so they haven't had a ton of time to really change up operations, but just in the little bit that we've seen, it's boosted our confidence. And then on the data side, it's been a lot helpful. They're still shifting through a lot of the data. They had one massive data dump. And so for 292 units in a couple of years in data, that's a lot to go through. But before, it seemed like nothing was very clear. And so when we were asking questions, it was hard to come to decisions because we never really trusted the data. So this is something that we implemented for that. This is called a pulse report. This is something that Joe and I kind of worked on. And so much in real estate is on a monthly basis. We get reports, financials on a monthly basis. We pay bills on a monthly basis. And so this is a report that works off a weekly basis. And it's really to help us keep track of operations. It's kind of divided into three main parts. And so first is going to be occupancy, looking at how many occupied units do we have, how many notice to vacates are we getting each week. Next would be financials, looking at our collections each week, where's delinquency at for the month, as well as delinquency ratio. And then lastly, it's going to be our leasing activity. How many leads are we getting? How many of those are we converting to shows, putting to leases? And so this is to help us make better decisions, look operationally at the property. And if things are going sideways, this is there to help us understand why and what's going wrong faster.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing too with having correct data gives us the ability to see fast data, make fast decisions. Because if it takes you months to make decisions based on outdated data, then you're already behind the 8 ball. So, yeah.
Something to add on this is in investor links on those investor letters or monthly updates that we send out. So, and this is on Hilton and 1856. So if you're an investor on those, you can go see this report. And we've been slowly implementing some of the data into our dashboards and stuff as well that you often see on those updates.
Yeah, that is a big thing, is transparency with investors too. So we want you to be able to see everything that you want to see. And if you don't see stuff that you want to see, then just ask us. We'll give it to you. We're very open. Any questions on that really quickly before we go on?
On the property or any about what you said?
Yes.
Anything.
Anything. And that, I should say, this is a conversation, so ask questions anytime.
So like we had the projections, essentially profitability, and I was fine with them. How much did it push back though with all the headwinds with the new marketing company and the new operating company there, the car crash, all that other stuff?
Yeah. As far as like the management change, we went from 3.5%.
You want to repeat the question for people online, and I'll take the mic to the next time.
Do what?
Just repeat his question so that people on.
Oh, so Dan's question is why, how far back, how did you word it? How far back is it going to set us on like projections and returns because of the car crash, the management change, and those challenges?
And then the apartments and all that other stuff.
Yeah. So I guess I'll first take the change in management. We actually lowered our fee to, because before it was a $9,000 minimum monthly management fee. And now it's a 3% of gross rents fee. So it's about $5,000 to $6,000 a month. So we're actually saving more money on the new management right there. And then we feel a lot more confident in their just everything, their communication, their leasing team, their support, their marketing department. The other company, it was like a one person that ran everything. They were the regional manager, and then they'd be flying to other states, like to go check on those properties. And so there's that. The car crash, I don't know, how would you?
So, the car crash is easy. It doesn't set us back really at all. That's why we raise extra working capital for instances like this that we can project or predict.
And those that were living in that building, we transferred them to a different building. So,
yeah. So, and really at the end of the day, our hope is that with the occupant or the management change, that we'll actually hit our goals quicker. And with the car, we'll just use working capital that we have and can even run it through the lender draw as well. So
maybe something to add. I'll stand next to you. We've been working on a budget with the new management company. They're in that market as well as the Austin market, so they're very familiar with it, kind of what's going on. But I believe their latest projections are around January. We should be cash flow positive. And so, yeah, so that's still in the works, but something that maybe just give you a better time frame.
we just got our insurance renewal premium. It was at 330,000 annually, and we just got it renewed at 200,000. So that was a big save, probably one of the bigger savings more recently.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some things that are going better than pro forma, but there's a lot that are going not as well. But
And because you're struggling with the occupancy and adding all those apartments. And so how is that affecting your ability to raise market rents?
Yeah, I mean, right now, we are not doing a lot to bump to market. We're being competitive with where everybody else is. So right now, our main goal and objective is getting occupancy and getting that up to like 90%. And then we'll start doing a lot more to push the rents up to the market and, you know, start renovating more interior units. So right now, the goal is to essentially stop the bleeding by getting more occupancy. Yeah. So
Are you also having a lot of concessions to get people in, even at the?
we're doing the first month free and the last month free. So that's pretty competitive in the market. Some are doing 1 month, some are doing 6 weeks. So yeah, there's concessions. Not as bad as like downtown Salt Lake. It's like 3 months, but yeah, it's going to be a bit longer for the concessions to burn off.
Maybe we just mentioned the locators.
Oh yeah.
well, I'll just mention there's like real estate agents that are called locators that if we give them, I think we're giving them like 50% of first month's rent to go out and find us tenants as well, like real estate agents that don't have houses. Like there's a whole like business around going out and finding tenants. So we're exhausting a lot of resources to go out and get new tenants and do it. Like an employment program with, like they're building a Buc-ee's just down the road. There's an Amazon warehouse, Texas State University. So we're doing a lot of things to bring in new tenants.
A lot of the traffic we're getting is August move-ins. Some students, some people that work at the college. So, and a lot of them want renovated units. So we've been, we've been renovating some, planning on renovating some, but also just, what do you call it? Like upcoming ones that are coming available, pre-leasing, just, renovating ones that'll come available. So it's going to be a big, July and August are going to be big months of pushing occupancy.
What's your average cost to renovate apartments?
So right now to do like a classic turn, we're like $3,400. And then if we're going to go in and do a full renovation, like replace cabinets, do countertops, we'll be probably in the $89,000 range.
So when you said classic, that's just carpet paint.
Carpet paint, fixtures. Yeah, so it's like, and we're even going in and like epoxying the countertops. It's just short of like replacing cabinets and appliances. So it's like everything else but that. So, yeah, great questions.
What's the rental difference between?
Now, not a lot. That's because we haven't renovated any units just because we can't get, at least that 12 to 15% ROI on turning on fully renovating units. So, yeah, great questions.
The previous owner did some capital improvements.
Yeah.
Interior or?
Like 58, he ran like 58 units. So we do have some that are renovated, and it's interesting.
There was a time when the rent premium was like $250 to $300, but that's gotten squeezed down to like maybe $100 now. So yeah, we're focused more on just pushing occupancy and doing the turns. And then as this remaining, the lease ups get absorbed and supply is less and there's more pricing power, then we're going to start. We have the budget to keep renovating more units, but we're going to wait till it makes sense to do the full renos.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into this next one and we'll kind of push through this one pretty quick.
So this is the deal we mentioned earlier. It's 117 units just down the street from the 292 unit that we've been talking about this whole time. When we first started negotiating on this deal, it was everything that we look for in a deal. long-term mom and pop owner, a family that had owned it for a long time, self-managed it, below market rents, no online marketing presence, good bones, like the property, they had replaced roofs, siding, done a lot of capital improvements, and occupancy was like 85%. And really just everything we look for in our bread and butter type of deal that we've had a lot of success buying. But once we went under contract, doing over a 2 to 3 month period, the occupancy dropped to the high 60% range, and more than occupancy even was our debt changed substantially. So we were going to do a bank loan at 6.4%, 10-year fixed rate loan. But because occupancy had dropped so much, the only lender willing to do the deal was a bridge lender, Genesis Capital. They're a national bank that the rate was like over 2% higher. So that just really blew out our debt service and added a lot of risk. And then we had to ask ourselves the critical questions of, can we lease up in time? Can we hit our pro forma rents? Can we get it to a refinanceable position quickly? Because it's only a 3-month term, those bridge loans. And
3-year term.
Yeah.
You said 3 months.
Oh,
It's okay. It's not that short.
and so what was the result of this, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, we decided to ultimately pass on it. It had been really easy. We were at the 11th hour. We had all $3 million raised with like 5 investors. We had all the construction ready, the budget ready. We were ready to go. We just needed to sign on the line for the loan. But it increased our debt service by like $300,000, and we just couldn't make the conscious decision to move forward with the deal, knowing that we would be so far underwater and not knowing when we could get out. So we ultimately walked away 6 months worth of work, hundreds of hours for our team and other teams that worked on this. We put $65K in non-refundable earnest money. We're actually able to get 90% of it back as of yesterday. We actually got it.
We've been having to litigate on it, and we just
Yeah.
settled on it.
Because there were some things by the seller that they did not disclose that we found when we did our on-site inspection. And so, like I said, it's been really easy, but protecting investor capital is just far more important than taking unnecessary risk that we can't control. Yeah, any questions on that before we get into some funner deals? All right.
So this was the first deal that Joe and I bought together. Let's see, about 20 months ago. We bought it from the original developer that built it in '98. We bought it at a great price, $126,000 per unit. Average rents were $783. And this is why we often target those long-term owners, because he built this for probably $25,000 a unit in the '90s, and he's weighing the money at his rents. They just like to keep occupancy. They don't need to push rents a lot to be profitable. And yeah, after we kind of got in a bidding war. It was we were the first to tour, the first to offer. We did non-refundable earnest money. The seller was selling it to buy a ranch, and we feel like we were able to build a lot of rapport and to kind of help us win the deal and beat out those other 9 offers. But yeah, as you can see, we raised rents over $700, and it's just been a home run of a deal. We did a $400 initial increase on everyone because they were all month-to-month leases, 60% renewed and stayed, and then the 40% that vacated, we renovated those 32 units, a full renovation, and got a huge rent bump on those. And then we did an additional rent increase on those renewals again, and we've had 70 to 80% retention rate on those.
Yeah, it's been a great property, and I think the biggest thing to point out here, just really quick, we also have the ability to add 32 more units on the property. So we're stabilized now, and we're just trying to make the decision: do we refinance or do we sell? And if any of you were on the last Campfire conversations, we had talked to our investors about developing, and some are very interested in it. But right now, we're actually getting ready to list it for sale.
Yeah, we listed it when we first got stabilized. But we didn't really have good trailing numbers at that time. That was back in September of last year. But now we have a full 12 months of stabilized operations of over 70,000 a month of rental income. And then a lot of brokers have told us they've seen activity pick up a lot. We actually have a 1031 buyer right now that's supposed to be submitting an offer. But yeah, we'll be bringing it to market here within the next couple of weeks. And yeah, if we can hit anywhere, even in the lower range of that, it's going to be a great deal for everyone.
Take it and run. All right, next deal, that's a really exciting one. I know there's a few of you that are in this one that are here as well. So Hilton Street Apartments in Boise. Boise is another one of our very favorite markets. 48 units, built in 92, bought it from a 10+ year owner. We were also able to build a lot of rapport with him because he's a construction guy. So we ultimately won the deal out of one other individual. But quick recap on the units. When we buy a property, we like to take action very quickly and keep things day one. So day one of ownership, we were renovating 3 units. We already had contracts to replace the driveway, install all of these privacy fences around the bottom units, which our management told us we'd get $50 bump on, which we have. And you know, some of that exterior curb appeal stuff that we talked about with 1856. Since, you know, we bought it June 26th of last year, so we're coming up on a year. It's been crazy to see the rents that we've been able to get because there's only 50 units like under construction right now, so it's supply constrained, and so rents are just going like crazy. But our average renewal has been 13%, with our highest renewals 27%, and we've had 2 units that have renewed at 27% increase from $1,020 rent to $1,290. And then, you know, there's rubs, utility rub back, and media package on top of that. So we've renovated 14 units. We're under construction right now on 7 units. And
yeah, so we just got a BOV on it too, and we won't dive too much into this, but yeah, we're like, if we can hit that 9.5 to 10 million number, it'll be about a 45 to 55% net return to the investor. So we weren't planning on selling this soon, but we're looking at listing at the end of this summer to get through. There's about a quarter of the leases we haven't gotten through at that 15 to 25% increase on renewal, or the trade outs have been even higher. So if someone moves out, we do the light renovation. Those trade outs have been, we've had as high as like 44% increase. So yeah, we're looking at maybe just taking a quick win and returning capital and a good return to investors. Or if not, we'll be able to do a good refinance. But we have loved the Boise market. Yeah, there's got a lot of good things going for it. Micron, they've got 5 different fabs that it's going to be $90 billion in investment in total over the next 10 years. And you got the Meta data center out in Kuna, and we just heard a lot of net migration happening more so in Idaho than Utah as of late, based on all the data, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, there's the next slide. You can see some of the photos of renovations.
Yeah, looks good. And again, here's our construction kind of costs and update. You can dig into this as well. But yeah, since we went under contract, or once we bought it, you know, we've spent, how much is there? 431. So we have about 35% of our budget left. After these 7 units are renovated, we'll have essentially achieved our year 1 business plan of renovating half the units. And we've replaced like 7 HVAC units, done a lot of exterior stuff. So it's in our renovated 13,887 is the average that we've spent so far, and our budget was like 14,500. So we're doing really well on cost at actual.
We'll blow through this kind of quickly because it's not our typical apartment deal. This is a condo conversion. We did it because we have a great local partner in Missoula, Adam Hertz. But yeah, we bought this, similar story. We bought it from a long 10-year plus family that had owned it. We bought it at a great price of $110,000 per unit. We quickly sold off 2 as-is units at $224.
One is 225, one is 235.
So this great profit margin, and then we're in negotiations on selling 5 more as-is units. His last offer was like $1,030,000. We're trying to get to 1.1. So it's the same, yeah, 215 or so a unit. And then we're going to be listing the fully renovated units, the upper units at $295 a unit and the lowers at $280 a unit. And for those of you that don't really know Missoula, it's a really supply constrained market. It's geographically constrained, and then there's not a lot of private land like within the city limits to build, and then the city's hard to deal with. And for various reasons, there's just not been a lot of supply. So home prices and rents have just continually went up. Our management company that we use there, they manage 3,000 units in that market, and surveyed across their units, their vacancy rate is 2.6%. So yeah, this is going to be a really cool project because we only need to sell 6 to 7 more condos, and we'll have paid off all of the debt, and then we'll own all the rest outright, and then just pure profit on every sell after that.
Yeah. I think one thing to mention here too is that is on both North Russell and Cedar, we've been able to save a lot of costs from our partners here in Salt Lake. We have a cabinet, we brought in cabinets, flooring, and siding and paint. So Johnny, thank you for being here and for helping us be in our budget. So you can also see here our cost table on our construction. We're doing really well on our budget here. I think we had budget like 60,000 per unit in renovation, interior and interior, and are below that budget right now. So
this is just a quick highlight of refinance we did this year. We bought this deal back in March of 24 for $9 million. It's in a great location. You got a lot of you probably know the area, just on Eaglewood and Orch Drive, right at the light, right at the bottom of Eaglewood Golf Course in North Salt Lake. But yeah, the couple was getting a divorce, so it was kind of a forced sell through the attorney, off market. A broker brought it to us. We had like back of the napkin financials on it, and we submitted an offer with $100,000 non-refundable day one earnest money because we just know the market really well, and we were able to implement. It was initially a $600 rent increase across all the units because everything was month to month, 65% renewed, 35% vacated. And then we quickly leased up those vacant units. And then it was like 4 months later that we renovated all the units. We bought the cabinets and countertops from Vietnam, and it took about 5 months to get the materials. So it was kind of funny because we had a company come in and renovate all the units over a 2-week period, install all the new kitchens and bathrooms. And then on the lease renewals, we didn't get any more of a rent premium. But kind of part of that has been the market has softened since. So like it says, the average rent increase of 511. It started out a little higher than that, and rents have been going down a little bit. But still, it was a home run. The refi appraisal came in at $14 million, $1.7 million cash out to investors, locked in a long-term 5.9% interest rate loan.
all right, really quick before we get on to what's coming up, do any of you have any questions about any of those deals in your portfolio?
So on some of those deals, what's the average investor?
The hold period? I mean, we, on all of them, 3 to 5 years right now. We're I know, fairly young, and investors are happy to get, a quick return. Like one of our biggest investors on the Hilton deal, we've consulted with them and said, hey, if we could return 55 or 50 to like 60%, like a 50 to 60% return on investment in a year, would you be open to that? And like, they're all saying yes. Like, even Brian was like, yeah, that's get a quick win, recycle the money, go into another one. So we're open to doing quick turns like that. It's like, if we sell North Russell, it'll be 2 years, and built in this fall if we can get a really good offer, but usually 3 to 5 years.
If you're in a 3 to 5 year deal, what's the average kind of like monthly or quarterly return versus the cash return?
Yeah, we target like to double money over 3 to 5 years. So like a 20 to 25% annualized return, but about a third of that comes in cash flow usually. So we target starting out in year 1 and year 2 because of the type of properties we're buying. Usually it's a little lower, like 4 or 5% in year 1. And then it kind of goes up from there to have an average of, we try to get to 7% plus of an average over like 5 years.
And I think like our Mountain States properties too, you'll find like a 16 to like 20% IRR with like around a 2x multiple. But like with 1856, higher risk, higher return, we're projecting over like 2.3x multiple in 5 years. So see if there's any questions online really quick. Yeah, feel free to, if anybody's online and wants to ask any questions, come off mute, but if not, we'll keep humming right along. What?
Yep, should we go on the next slide?
Yep. So some new deals and opportunities that we're working on. As you can see, we love the Boise, Missoula market. We're probably not going to pursue anything new in San Marcos right now. We're just going to put all of our effort for that market into 1856 and getting it recovered as quickly as possible. So one thing that we wanted to discuss with all of our investors is, right, Levi and I have been doing syndication now for about a decade each together, close to almost 2 years. We're looking at, we have a couple deals in Missoula and Boise that we want to talk to you about. But we feel like it would make a lot more sense to create kind of a fund structure, multi-asset syndication. With funds like a blind pool fund, most of the time you don't have like visual of like what deals are going into the blind pool fund. So doing a multi-asset syndication, you would absolutely be able to see what deals are in that portfolio and would have kind of risk and return based on the deals in that portfolio, right? And with a multi-asset syndication, we would absolutely have a thesis on, okay, we're going after this vintage of property, this size, this location. So it'd be very dialed in to what we're focusing on purchasing. So
these are deals that we're in the middle of bidding on. We don't have them under contract, but we thought it would be good just to kind of use them as a template case study. But yeah, we want to get your guys' feedback and opinions on it, because over the years, like Joe said, we've always just done syndications, and we've wanted to get more into like doing a fund structure, just where you can spread out the risk, the returns, the cash flow.
demographics.
Yeah, geography is different. The business plan is different. You can sell one property and refinance one property. It's not like all or nothing. There's just a lot of advantages to doing that. But maybe before we get to doing like a blind pool fund, because I think investors want to like see what they're investing in, we're trying to see if we can get a couple different projects under contract at once that we're planning on buying anyways as a syndication. So we might as well combine them together and get the diversity of 2 different markets and different business plans. But I don't know if we stop here and like ask for feedback, or do we get through the other slides, or
Maybe what questions would you guys have about multi-asset syndication?
So, yeah, I personally like the idea.
Yeah, there will be like.
Yeah, I like the idea. of being able to somewhat diversify a single property risk, to split it and, having an idea of not necessarily what a specific property is, but the property attributes in the market.
Mhm.
Right? So obviously, Boise, Missoula's super town,
Yeah.
and it just set up a personal connection.
Yeah.
So, it would be a good market to be in because it is so constrained. So to have that, and stuff, so you'll be able to split a couple of different markets, right, and to be able to split a couple of different properties takes your overall single unit, single location risk diversified, which is attractive.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback. It's good to hear because that kind of validates some of the thoughts that we have. But yeah, we don't want to do something if investors don't want to do it. So.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, my question is, how would the timing work across multiple assets, right? Because it seems like you kind of got to get them under contract within a certain, time frame, right?
Yep.
And especially if you, lose a deal on one, then you've got to have a billing for another. I think that's probably the most complex side.
Yep.
Assets.
Yep, it's a little bit tricky. Joe might be able to answer this better than me, but as long as you have them in the documents, you can get people to, it's kind of like a fund where there's what do you call it, Joe? A raise period and then a deployment period. Like you don't actually call capital until the deal is ready to close on. But yeah, you still don't want it to be like a long time. Like hopefully it's just a few months that you may have to wait for that deal, but I don't know if you have a better way of answering it.
I think you answered it. I know we're working on getting into a lot more details with our attorney group on it, but yeah. Trevor, you have anything? I know you work in the fund space.
Yeah, I'd be able to know just if you were to treat what you've already done as though historically it were that and do a pro forma. Here's what we projected, here's what we told investors, here's how it actually worked out. As though we were a full vehicle, the same thing that I said at the town cost. Just so I can get an idea of, what's performance expectation. And,
Yeah.
Can't project out that that's just your best projection.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to prepare a good slide of showing that, but yeah, just talking off the cuff, it's kind of been all over the board. Like there were deals that we bought, some of this is on our website, but some deals we bought 2017, 2018, we sold them in 21 and 22, and they were like 3 to 4x multiple over 3 to 4 years. So that's like a 300% return plus. And then we've had other deals where they did where he just got a full return of capital, but no return on capital. And then, yeah, we've got deals that we haven't sold. I've got a deal in Salt Lake I bought in 2021, and we have 5 years left term of debt on it, but cash flow is very minimal, and we just have to hold, like it's not a great time to sell. But yeah, that would be good to.
But we could
showcase
also,
that.
we could do it based off of the 3 deals we have.
Yeah.
We see, Hilton.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll show you a couple deals that we're looking at putting in into that multi-asset syndication. First one being Boulder Creek. This one is something we're super excited about. It's just down the road from our other Boise asset, 136 units. It's a little bit older than we like, 1978. We really like 1980s and newer. But one of our strategic partners has walked this property twice and has been extremely impressed with the bones of it. It doesn't have like old electrical, old plumbing. It actually has like copper piping. It's like in really good condition. The owners have done a lot of like exterior curb appeal work. So we'll be able to go in and actually do like the interior work now that a lot of the exterior. There will of course be some deferred maintenance work, but a lot of the interior, we talked to our commercial Northwest is our manager in Boise, and they're seeing that we can bump rents from where they're at to market at least $200. And the plan would be to do like a 12-month burn off the loss to lease, so that $200 per unit. and then start renovating a lot more units in 12 months from now. The deal is just really clean, really good bones. I don't think we're gonna like compete against institutional. We got beat out on a 185 unit called Silver Bay. We were third.
Yeah, 32 offers, 6 made best and final, all at the price guidance. The top 3 had either $500,000 to $1 million non-refundable day one earnest money. Cause it was a home run of a deal, but it was, there were some players that, yeah, we just couldn't compete with.
So we're really looking forward to this one. We put an offer on it Thursday was the call for offers. And so we should be hearing back at any time on this one.
One thing to add is just it sizes up really good with, it's called agency debt, just long-term non-recourse financing in the low to mid 5% range. So this is a great deal where there is decent cash flow out of the gate, like 5 to 6%. And then, yeah, Joe talked a lot about the value add. So it's a good mix of both, where there's lower risk. We have over $500,000 of day one cash flow and growing from there.
So that's a good point. Day one cash flow is really nice.
And then, yeah, we won't talk too much about this. This one we're about to offer on. We haven't quite yet, but the group that bought it, they bought it in 2019. So they're in a bridge loan. They tried selling it last year and they couldn't get their number. And they're trying again this year, and they have to go. They have to move it this year. They're going to meet the market, and we're just hoping we don't get outbid. But we think we can buy it well below placement cost. The location is phenomenal. It's right on the Milwaukee Trail, right by the old sawmill district, by the river, and it's just going to get better and better with time. That location, and it's going to have some good in-place yield and cash flow, and they're all classic interiors. So there's actually an argument that can be made to push rents to their average 2-bedroom rents are about $1,800. And right across the street, is probably one of the nicest properties in town, Campion Place. They're like $2,600 for their 2 bedrooms. So we could probably push rents a couple $100 if we want to do a light renovation. But yeah,
so like you said, Dan, Missoula is really constrained and it's hard to find good quality deals. And with the vintage of this being 2013 and still a really nice value add play, it's going to come with a lot less headaches and be a lot more, I don't know, determined capital or returns or predictable returns on it. So
more like a core plus investment, a little lower risk profile.
Yeah. So these are the 2 main ones that we're looking at putting in that multi-asset. I'll just bring attention to this one, the Pines, 45 units in Boise. It just barely hit the market. This is another one where the seller has to sell because their loan has come due and they can't do a cash in. So that one's another very attractive one, similar to Hilton. So, but that's all that we have for right now. Any questions?
Okay, what have you guys seen in these markets where a lot of people bought, when rates were low, 21, 22, a lot of those loans are coming through. There's a lot of distress out there, right? A lot more deals are going to come online that are under distress, right? So what are you guys seeing on that end markets?
Yeah. So for those of you that didn't hear, Nathan just asked, for all the deals that were bought 21, 22, and foreclosures happening, like what do we see happening with that? I don't know, why don't you go first? You're more of an expert.
Okay. So it's really market specific. Utah and Idaho and Montana are a little bit more like buy and hold markets. There's a lot more like family money and longer, like a lot of groups do HUD loans. Morgan is probably familiar with this, where they'll, from the beginning, they plan on building with a 40-year fully amortizing loan. And so it's not very transactional. I've heard brokers say in like Utah, there's only 2 to 3% of inventory that transacts per year versus like Phoenix, 13 to 15% transacts. In Austin, similar. There's a lot more like short-term syndication companies that look to flip properties in those markets. So we're not in those markets as much. So we're not seeing as much in our markets. But yeah, like Joe mentioned, there's that one in Boise that we're gonna try to buy, and the one in Missoula, there are some that banks have been really willing to work with them and extend and pretend and push out timelines because they don't want to take losses either. But from what we hear, they're starting to realize they just need to take their losses and move on. And if Bryant were here, he might be able to answer that really well on the banking side. But
What's causing the losses in the markets with these low rates?
yeah,
I mean, it seems like they would have thought that out when they bought them in 2019 or 20 when the rates were so low.
yeah. So it's a mix of probably 3 or 4 different things. From COVID, there was a big rental boom and rent growth just took off and developers flocked to all of these growth markets. So we had 50-year highs in construction starts in 21 and 22, then delivered in 23, 24, 25. So we have a record amount of supply. And so rents have fallen down a lot and concessions are up. And so revenue is down while expenses have went up a lot over the past 5 years because of inflation. And then combine that with interest rates doubling. The short end of the interest rates triple, like within 12 months, they did 11 rate hikes, the Fed. So like short-term rates were 2.5% to 3%, and they went to 8.5% to 9% overnight. And then long-term rates went from 3 to 6. So yeah, not only has revenue in a lot of these markets went down, your expenses went up, your debt went up, and they're just getting squeezed out. And yeah, I don't know if you have anything to add.
I mean, I think one thing that I got to Nathan's question here is, it's interesting because we never, in my mind, I never thought we would see like foreclosures happening in Salt Lake, Montana, Idaho. But the fact that we have been working the last 10 years in these markets gives us I feel like an unfair advantage, because if you talk to so many operators here that are in Georgia, in Texas, and Ohio, that's like their main portfolio, and nobody has been investing. I shouldn't say no one, but a lot fewer groups have been investing in these markets. And so now that we have track record, results, reputation in this market, we're going to be able to take advantage of that and buy more deals at a better basis and be more competitive, because now brokers know us. And like the Hilton deal, Levi had been building that relationship with that broker for years, and he called us and said, I think you guys are probably the best ones to take this down. And so we got to look at it before it really blasted it out. So that's why we want to do events like this, build a lot of relationships, because we want you guys to jump on the bandwagon with us and take advantage of this opportunity to, take deals down. And if we had, 100 million, we could have taken down a deal that the bank took back here in, Salt Lake. That was,
and there's another one in Midville right now too that's getting taken back.
Yeah, it's going to auction this week.
And then that one too. Yeah, I'm talking about North Union.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we see a lot of opportunity, and we're ready to take advantage of it.
How do you normally source your deals?
Brokers. Yeah. We've been getting a lot of pocket listings. Brokers saying, hey, we think this is a good fit for what you guys are doing. That's I'd say 90%. And it's interesting because Levi said early on, out of all of these deals, they've all been 10+ year owners, mom and pop shops. So
we want to buy the distressed deal that's getting taken back from the bank, but there just quite hasn't been enough opportunity there yet, because a lot of those deals, they were bought in 21 or 22 at really low cap rates, really high prices, and even at the debt amount, some of them don't even make sense. So we've had more success buying from those long-term owners, but more time is going by that these lenders are starting to realize they don't want to manage these properties, so they might start taking losses. So there could be opportunity coming to start buying these.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think you mentioned for the 1856 that maybe January cash flow positive. Until then, distribution still be the same, or is there some question on that? The current distribution.
Yeah, we are looking at our cash availability right now and the cash burn with our management company and consulting with Bryant on that. So we're we're working through that right now to see what we can do. We never want to pause distributions. But if we have to for a couple of months just to get restabilized and make sure that we're in a good spot, then we'll do it, and restart it up again once we're cash flow positive and have regenerated some of our working capital. So the biggest goal is to get that occupancy up and get a refinance to get out of that, because we're at 7.95 interest rate on that deal right now. So get that turned and lowered.
So what do you have to do to refinance it?
Yeah.
So most lenders like to see 90 for 90. So 90% occupied for 90 days. So yeah, once we get to that point, it'll qualify for what's called agency debt, long-term fixed rate debt. Rates are about low to mid fives. So we'll be able to drop our debt service payment by $500,000 a year on that deal just by refinancing into the long-term loan. So yeah, the good thing is we have a lot of cash. We raised a lot of working capital, interest reserves. So we have, a couple of years of runway. Even if things didn't get any better, we'd have plenty of runway. But we're really hoping that through this leasing season, we can really ramp up, finishing the lease up and stabilize it.
And one thing too, Dan, is we have a lender out of Austin who we're already sharing financials with. And so he's coaching us on our financials and operations to make sure that we can get to a refinanceable position as soon as possible. So he's already consulting with us on getting the financials to where they need to be to refi for long-term agency. So
Do they seem to go more by, just the occupancy as opposed to the concessions? Or do they get too concerned about how many concessions in order to get to that occupancy?
They look at concessions, but more so they look at the occupancy, which is kind of weird. I've always asked that question. Because yeah, I've never fully understood why agency lenders underwrite the way they do, but
yeah, we won't argue. We'll just do